Let's kind of set the scene here for our listeners. Imagine yourself as Arjuna. You're standing on that battlefield, you're overwhelmed with doubt, despair, and you hear these words from Krishna. Yield not to weakness, son of Pritha's line. This impotence degrades, it is not truly thine. Discard this petty faintness of the heart's domain. Rise, O chastiser of foes, and conquer again. All right, I'm Satosha.
And I'm Satoshi.
Welcome to our Chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita. We'll be moving verse by verse, really taking our time to appreciate the depth and the nuances of each translation. And we are both English natives, so please forgive us if we mispronounce any of the Sanskrit terms.
Yeah, and we want to be super respectful of this text.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's an important religious text. We're going to be moving very slowly and deliberately through it. Yeah.
The Bhagavad Gita is a sacred Hindu text, a conversation between the warrior Arjuna and the divine Krishna on the eve of a great battle.
A pivotal moment.
It is a dialogue that grapples with some really fundamental questions about life, death, duty, and the nature of reality.
Exactly. And the English renditions we'll be exploring today offer a unique window into these profound teachings, allowing us to appreciate the beauty and complexity of the original Sanskrit, while also making these timeless truths accessible to a wider audience. Right, and to really kind of immerse ourselves in this chapter, it's helpful to have a sense of the key players. So we have Arjuna, who is a warrior, and he's facing an existential crisis on the battlefield of Kurukshetra.
Right.
And he is just completely overwhelmed by the prospect of having to fight his own family and his teachers.
Right, and then there's Krishna, who is Arjuna's charioteer,
Right.
but also a divine incarnation who steps in to guide Arjuna through this crisis.
Right.
And Krishna reveals some really profound truths about life, death, and duty.
Absolutely.
We also have Sanjaya, right?
Yeah.
A narrator of sorts, who is describing the scene to King Dhritarashtra, who is blind and unable to witness the battle unfold. Okay, so let's begin with the first verse, which sets a very somber tone, revealing Arjuna's profound despair.
Yeah, the first verse reads, "Thus spoke Sanjaya, his heart with sorrow deep, seeing Arjuna's compassion start to weep. Tears filled his eyes, his spirit felt distressed. To Madhusudana these words were then addressed."
Yeah, it immediately immerses us in Arjuna's emotional turmoil, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And notice how Krishna is being referred to as Madhusudana, which means slayer of Madhu, a demon.
The second verse is interesting because Krishna responds to Arjuna's emotional breakdown not with sympathy, but with a gentle rebuke.
It does, doesn't
Yeah.
it? The verse says, "The Lord then said with voice serene and clear, O Arjuna, how has this defilement come so near? Unworthy of a soul that knows life's precious worth, it leads to shame, and not to realms of higher birth."
Defilement. That's such a strong word. It feels almost jarring in the context of Arjuna's sorrow.
I think it's intentional. Krishna is calling out Arjuna's attachment, his grief, his unwillingness to fight as impurities, really, that are clouding his judgment.
Yeah, and it's preventing him from seeing the bigger picture.
And amidst this rebuke, right, he emphasizes the importance of recognizing life's precious worth, subtly hinting at the eternal nature of the soul, which, as we go through the chapter, you're going to see that more deeply.
Yeah, so it's like Krishna is saying, this grief is clouding your vision, Arjuna. It's not who you truly are.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yield not to weakness, son of Pritha's line. This impotence degrades, it is not truly thine. Discard this petty faintness of the heart's domain. Rise, O chastiser of foes, and conquer again.
It's like, remember who you are, Arjuna. You come from a line of warriors. Rise to the occasion.
Yeah, and that phrase, chastiser of foes,
Yeah.
really stands out. It's a powerful epithet. It almost feels like a call to action, urging Arjuna to embrace his duty as a warrior.
It is. But it's important to remember that Krishna isn't urging Arjuna to just go fight blindly.
Right.
He's guiding him toward a higher understanding of duty, one that transcends, personal attachments and desires.
Yeah, okay, so in verses 4 and 5, we hear Arjuna voicing his anguish.
Yes. The fourth verse reads, Arjuna then replied with troubled, earnest plea, "O killer of all foes and Madhu's enemy, how can I strike with arrows sharp and keen at Bhishma, Drona, whom I should hold in esteem? To beg for life would be a kinder fate than living at the cost of souls so great. My teachers, they, the worldly gains they crave. If they are slain, all joy we find is grave."
He's saying that even victory would feel like defeat if it means harming those he loves and respects.
And this is exactly where Krishna begins to unveil these deeper truths.
Right.
leading Arjuna and us as listeners on this journey of self-discovery and spiritual understanding.
Yeah, verse 6 marks a shift in the conversation because here Arjuna acknowledges his own limitations.
Right, yeah.
And he says, nor can we know which path is best to tread, to conquer them or be by them laid dead. If Tuthura's sons should meet their end by me, then life itself would lose its ecstasy. Yet there they stand, prepared for war's harsh play.
Yes, it's a crucial moment. It's only when we acknowledge our limitations, and seek guidance that we can truly open ourselves up to new understanding.
Right, and in verse 7, Arjuna surrenders to Krishna, asking for his guidance.
My duty's path is veiled, confusion reigns, weakness and grief my very being strains.
Yeah.
To you I turn, O Lord, in this despairing plight, your disciple now, surrender to your light, instruct me right.
Surrender to your light. Verse 8 is where we really see the culmination of Arjuna's despair.
No solace can I find, no comfort can I see, to dry the tears that flow so endlessly. Not even if a kingdom vast I should attain, like gods in heaven, still this grief would stain.
This is a feeling that I think resonates with a lot of listeners. The idea that even, worldly success, achievements, it can feel meaningless in the face of deep emotional pain.
It speaks to the human condition, doesn't it? The search for something beyond the material that can bring lasting peace and fulfillment.
And then in verse 9, which is narrated by Sanjaya, we get this powerful image of Arjuna's surrender.
Yes, he says. Thus Arjuna said, his troubled soul entwined, O Govinda, I shall not fight, his final word did cease, and in the chariot stillness he found no release.
In the chariot stillness he found no release.
Over at his descendant, in that martial scene, with gentle smile, Krishna then intervened. Between the waiting armies, his wisdom to impart, to grief-struck Arjuna, he spoke from his great heart.
It's intriguing to me that Krishna is described as smiling amidst the tension of this battlefield,
It is a powerful image, isn't it?
It is.
It symbolizes his composure and his detachment, qualities that he will teach Arjuna to cultivate.
And in verse 11, he begins by gently addressing Arjuna's grief.
Okay. The Lord proclaimed, his words like nectar's flow. Though wisdom's language from your lips does go, you mourn for that which merits not your tear. The truly wise hold neither dead nor living dear.
So right from the start, Krishna is introducing the concept of detachment.
He is.
He's pointing out the futility of grieving for what's inevitable.
Yes, and he's also hinting at a deeper truth. That attachment to those who are impermanent is a source of suffering.
Right, and then in verse 12, Krishna makes this bold statement about the eternal nature of the soul.
Yes, he says, there never was a time when I did cease to be, nor you, nor these assembled kings, for all eternity. And in the ages yet to come, this truth shall still remain, that none of us will ever fade or wane.
This is one of the most famous verses in the Gita, where Krishna is stating that the soul, the true self, is beyond time and change.
Yeah, it's a foundational concept, a cornerstone of his teachings, and it can be a difficult idea to grasp at first.
Absolutely.
But it has profound implications for how we understand life and death and our purpose in the universe.
Then in verse 13, he uses an analogy to explain the soul's journey. As through this life, the embodied soul will stride, from childhood's dawn to youth, then age's tide, so at death's door a new form it will find. The wise are not by such transitions blind.
He compares the soul's journey to the changing stages of life, suggesting that just as we transition through different phases in one lifetime, the soul transitions through multiple lifetimes.
Then in verse 14, Krishna continues with another analogy, this time comparing happiness and distress to the changing seasons.
O son of Kunti, fleeting joy and pain, like winter's chill and summer's sun and rain, arise from sense, their coming and their go, learn to endure, let no disturbance grow.
The message here, I think, is to cultivate a sense of equanimity and inner balance so we're not tossed around by those inevitable ups and downs of life.
Right, and in verse 15, he continues to build on this idea of equanimity.
O best of men, who stands unmoved and bold, by happiness or sorrow's touch controlled, who keeps his balance steady and serene, that soul, O Arjuna, is fit for freedom's sheen.
The seers of truth, their wisdom deep and vast, have known the unreal's end, the real's firm cast. The body's fleeting form will surely fade away, but the eternal soul will never know decay.
And verse 17 continues this thought. Know that which through the entire being spreads is indestructible beyond all dreads. No force can ever shatter or subdue the imperishable soul that dwells in you.
The body perishes, a truth we can't deny, though the embodied soul can never ever die. Therefore, O Partha's brave descendant, rise and fight. Fulfill your duty with all of your might.
Okay, so Krishna is saying that since the soul is eternal, there's no reason to fear death or to grieve for the loss of the physical body. But, I mean, isn't that a rather detached perspective, especially given, the intensity of Arjuna's grief?
It might seem that way, but you have to remember that Krishna is trying to guide Arjuna toward a higher truth, a truth that can liberate him from his suffering. Who thinks the soul can slay or can be slain knows not the truth. Their vision is in vain. The self can neither kill nor can it ever fall, eternal and untouched, beyond the body's thrall.
For the soul there is no birth and no demise. It has not been, nor will it ever cease to rise. Unborn, eternal, ancient, evermore the same, unslain it stays when mortal frames meet flame.
Right. He's emphasizing that the soul is beyond the cycle of birth and death. It doesn't come into being or cease to be, even when the physical body dies.
So then what is the soul's journey if it's not bound by birth and death? What happens to it?
That's a question that Krishna will address later in the chapter, but for now he's laying the groundwork by establishing the soul's eternal nature.
Okay, and in verse 21, he brings it back to Arjuna's dilemma about fighting against his relatives.
Right. O Partha, how can one who knows the soul's true might, indestructible, eternal, pure, and bright, think to destroy or cause another's end? Such knowledge transcends actions that portend.
So it seems like Krishna is suggesting that if one truly understood the eternal nature of the soul, then the idea of killing or being killed would become meaningless. It's the ignorance of this truth that creates fear and conflict.
Exactly. And he uses this very simple but powerful analogy, to illustrate the soul's journey through multiple lifetimes in verse 22.
As worn-out garments from the body fall, and new attire is donned, responding to life's call, so does the soul when earthly forms grow old, accept new bodies, brave and true and bold.
He's comparing the soul's journey to changing clothes. Just as we change our clothes when they become old or worn out, the soul changes bodies when they are no longer suitable for its evolution. Verse 23 says, no weapon cuts the soul, no fire can it burn, no water moistens, nor can winds e'er turn. This essence dry, this spirit ever free, beyond the grasp of all materiality.
Unbreakable, insoluble, forever it will be, unburned, undried, for all eternity, pervading all, unchanging, still the same, the soul's true nature, beyond earthly claim.
The soul is this indestructible essence that's untouched by the element. And that brings us back to Arjuna's grief. In verse 25, where Krishna says, invisible, they say, beyond thought's reach profound, immutable its being on solid ground. Knowing this truth, O Arjuna, wise and bold, you should not grieve for bodies new or old.
And I think that message resonates, especially deeply in times of loss and grief. It offers a sense of hope and consolation, reminding us that there's a deeper reality that remains untouched and unchanging.
And it's in this context that Krishna addresses a potential counter-argument from Arjuna in verse 26.
Okay, what does he say?
But even if you deem the soul each breath must take, and at each death its mortal coil forsake, still, mighty armed one, why should sorrow bind? No cause for lamentation will you find.
So he's saying that even if we don't fully grasp the concept of the soul's immortality, we can still find peace by accepting the natural cycle of life and death. For certain is the death of all that's born, and certain is rebirth when life is torn. In this inevitable cycle, ever true, you should not grieve for what you have to do.
Unmanifest the beings in their primal state. Manifest they briefly, sealed by coming fate. Then unmanifest again, their earthly roles complete. So why lament this ever-turning feat?
So the key takeaway here is that death is not an end, but a transition, a return to an unmanifest state from which new life will eventually emerge. It's a cyclical process, an ever-turning wheel of existence. Then, in verse 29, Krishna acknowledges that the concept of the soul can be, difficult to grasp for some.
Yeah. Some see the soul as wonder, rare and grand. Some speak of it as marvels close at hand. Some hear of it as mystic and divine, while others hear, yet never truly find.
It's true. Some people are naturally drawn to these mystical concepts, while others, they struggle to comprehend them.
Right. And Krishna isn't suggesting that everyone needs to have the same level of understanding. He's simply offering teachings that can guide us on our individual journeys,
Right.
wherever we may be on the path.
Yeah. And in verse 30, he reiterates the idea of the soul's invincibility, saying, O Parada's descendant, know this truth profound. The dweller in the body can never be unbound, nor ever slain. So let your sorrows cease, and find in this great knowledge your release. But it's not just about intellectual understanding, is it? I mean, there's also an element of faith and surrender involved.
Absolutely. And I think that's what makes these teachings so challenging and so compelling.
Yeah.
They call us to go beyond our limited rational minds, and to embrace a deeper truth that can only be experienced through direct perception.
And it seems like Krishna is now bringing the conversation back to Arjuna's duty as a warrior, connecting this knowledge of the soul to the specific actions he needs to take on the battlefield.
Yes, in verse 31 he says, Consider too your duty as a warrior true, for Katariyas, a righteous battle to pursue, no nobler task, no higher aim can be, so cast aside all doubt and fight with liberty.
Okay, so Krishna is reminding Arjuna of his dharma, his duty as a warrior.
Yes, and he's specifically addressing Arjuna's concern about, fighting against his own family.
Right.
He's saying that for a Kshatriya, a member of the warrior caste, there's no higher purpose than fighting for righteousness, even if it means going against those he loves.
Okay, so it's not about the act of killing itself, but about the intention, the context in which the action is performed.
Exactly. The Gita is not advocating for, mindless violence, but rather for right action.
Right.
Performed with detachment and a clear understanding of one's duty. O Partha, blessed are those of martial might, to whom such battles come in duty's light. For open are the gates to realms above, for those who in righteous conflict bravely move.
So he's saying that the opportunity to fight in a just cause is a blessing.
Yes, but it's important to understand this verse in context. Krishna is speaking to Arjuna as a Kshatriya,
Right.
Someone who's been trained and prepared for battle.
Yeah.
For him, the opportunity to fight in a righteous war is a chance to fulfill his dharma, his sacred duty. It's not a glorification of violence in general.
That makes sense. And then in verses 33 and 34, Krishna outlines the consequences of neglecting one's duty.
Yes. Verse 33 says, But if you shrink from duty's sacred call and fail to fight where righteousness may fall, then sin you'll gather, reputation lose, and worldly scorn your noble name abuse.
And verse 34 continues, Dishonor's stain will cling, a lasting blight, and ever will they speak of your lost might. For one of noble standing it's a bitter fate, for scorn is worse than death, however great.
Krishna is reminding Arjuna that neglecting one's duty has both spiritual and social consequences.
Then in verses 35 and 36, Krishna describes the negative judgments that Arjuna will face if he chooses to, abandon the battlefield.
The mighty generals who held your prowess high will deem you fled from fear beneath the sky, and in their eyes your worth will dwindle low, a shadow of the hero they did know.
Your enemies will mock with cruel disdain, and bitter words will amplify your pain. What could be more afflicting to your soul than such derision taking its harsh toll?
O son of Kunti, on this battlefield's expanse, if slain to heaven you will surely advance, or if you conquer, earthly joys you'll find. So rise, determined, leave all doubt behind.
Fight for the sake of fighting, free from fear, nor heed to pleasure, pain, or loss held dear. No victory desired, no defeat to shun. By such impartial action, sin is never won.
This is a crucial verse, often considered the essence of karma yoga, the path of selfless action. Krishna is advising Arjuna to act without attachment to the results of his actions.
Okay, so it's not about seeking rewards or avoiding punishments, but about acting in alignment with one's dharma, without, getting caught up in the desire for specific outcomes.
Thus far, I've taught you wisdom's analytic view. Now hear of selfless action, pure and true. O son of Putha, when deeds such knowledge guide, from karma's binding chains, you can abide.
So he's moving from an analytical explanation of the soul and its nature to a more practical discussion of how to live in accordance with that knowledge.
Yeah.
He's introducing this concept of karma yoga as a path to liberation from the cycle of karma, the law of cause and effect.
You've got it. And this is where the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita really start to become applicable to our daily lives.
Right.
It's not just about abstract philosophical concepts, but about how we can embody those concepts in our thoughts, our words, and our actions.
I'm intrigued. Can you elaborate on this concept of karma yoga a little further?
Certainly. Karma yoga is essentially the path of performing actions with detachment from the results, offering them as a service to a higher purpose. It's about acting with a sense of dedication and devotion,
Right.
rather than being driven by personal desires or the pursuit of rewards.
So it's about shifting our motivation from what's in it for me to how can I serve?
Exactly. And it's a powerful way to transform our relationship with action, freeing ourselves from those anxieties and attachments that often accompany our desires for specific outcomes. And in the following verses, Krishna will delve deeper into the principles and practices of karma yoga, offering guidance on how to cultivate detachment, equanimity, and a sense of selfless service.
Yes, and in verse 40, he assures Arjuna that even small steps on this path can yield, significant benefits.
Right. The verse says, "In this endeavor, loss or waste is none. A little progress fears dark grip undone. Even a tiny step upon this path so bright protects from greatest terrors endless night."
It's encouraging to hear that even small efforts can make a difference. It makes this path, feel more accessible, less daunting.
Spiritual progress is a journey, not a destination. Every step we take in the right direction, however small, it brings us closer to inner peace and liberation.
In verses 41 through 43, Krishna contrasts the mindset of those who are resolute in their purpose with those who are kind of scattered and attached to, worldly desires.
Yeah, verse 41 states, "The resolute in purpose, their aim is ever one, O cherished child of Kurus, their focused courses run. But those whose wills are scattered, their thoughts a tangled maze, their understanding branches in 1,000 ways."
So those who are clear about their purpose and committed to the path of selfless action, they have a focused mind, while those who are attached to worldly desires have a scattered and confused mind.
Precisely. The narrow-minded cling to Vedic flowery speech that promises rewards beyond mortality's reach. Desiring sense delights and life of pomp and show, there's nothing more than this, their limited views grow. In minds attached to pleasures fleeting and so frail, and worldly wealth that ultimately will fail, the firm resolve for service to the Lord Most High, no solid root can find beneath their clouded sky.
These verses are a reminder of the pitfalls of seeking fulfillment in material possessions and, sensory pleasures, which are ultimately, transient and unsatisfying.
Yes, and they highlight the importance of aligning ourselves with a higher purpose, a purpose that transcends the limitations of the material world.
And in verse 45, Krishna uses a powerful analogy to illustrate the limitations of clinging to, a narrow materialistic view of life.
As all the needs a small well can fulfill, a mighty reservoir can serve with greater skill. So all the aims the Vedas would impart are found by one who knows their central heart.
The limited fulfillment we derive from pursuing worldly desires is nothing compared to the boundless joy and peace we can experience when we connect with something larger than ourselves.
It's like focusing on, a tiny puddle when there's an entire ocean waiting to be explored.
And in verse 47, Krishna offers this practical guideline for engaging in selfless action. He says, "Your right is to the duty, to the action's core, but not to fruits that follow evermore. Nor think yourself the cause of what will be, nor cling to an action, but work with liberty."
This is a core principle of karma yoga. Our focus should be on performing our duty, our dharma, without attachment to the results. We have the right to act, but we don't have the right to dictate the outcome.
So it's about letting go of control, surrendering to a higher power.
Well, not necessarily control, but the need to control outcomes. It's more about recognizing that we're part of this larger, cosmic dance where we have a role to play, but we're not the director of the entire play.
Verses 48 and 49 seem to offer some practical guidance on how to cultivate this mindset of acting without attachment.
Perform your duty balanced and serene, renouncing attachment to success unseen or failure's sting. This evenness of mind is yoga called true wisdom to unwind.
Okay.
And then verse 49 adds, "O Dhananjaya, shun all deeds that bring despair. By loving service seek the Lord's own care. For those who crave the fruits of labor's hand are misers bound they cannot understand."
So Krishna is defining yoga as this state of equanimity,
Right.
the ability to remain balanced and steady, regardless of the outcome of our actions.
Yes.
And he's encouraging us to act with devotion, to offer our actions as a service to something greater than ourselves.
Exactly. And that's where true freedom lies.
Yeah.
In surrendering the ego's need for recognition and reward and acting from a place of pure love and service.
In verse 50, he really highlights the transformative power of this kind of, selfless action.
He does. He says, "Devotion's path releases here and now from good and bad reactions that bestow their earthly chains. Strive then for yoga's art, the skill in action, playing well your part."
Wow, so by practicing karma yoga, we can break free from the cycle of cause and effect, from the karmic consequences of our actions, both good and bad.
You got it. So let's move on to verse 51. This one feels very immediate, like a call to action. With this in mind, perform your duty well, for action is superior to dwelling still. Even for bodily needs, inaction breeds. No life is sustained without worthy deeds. So this is really emphasizing the importance of action in spiritual life. It's this reminder that, we're not meant to be these passive observers.
Right.
We're meant to be active participants
Okay.
in the unfolding of life. Even the most mundane actions, when they're performed with awareness and intention, can actually become a form of spiritual practice.
So it's not about kind of escaping from the world, but about engaging with it in a mindful way, a purposeful way.
Precisely. The Gita is teaching us to find that sacred in the ordinary,
Okay.
to see every action as an opportunity for growth and transformation.
By actions of the world are rituals performed. Without attachment to the source returned, the wise, their actions free from selfish claim, are cleansed by fire, from karmic bonds harsh flame.
When we act selflessly, then those actions actually become a form of offering.
Okay.
And we purify ourselves from those karmic consequences that kind of bind us.
Yeah. When intellect is clear, unwavering, and true, doubt and delusion vanish from your view. Established then in wisdom's steadfast ground, you find the peace that worldly minds confound.
And so in this verse, it kind of represents the transformative power of selfless action. And when we let go of our ego's desires and we act in accordance with our dharma, our duty, then we burn away those karmic impurities that cloud our perception and keep us trapped in this cycle of suffering. So here we have Arjuna.
Correct.
He's heard those initial teachings, and now he's like, okay, hold on. How do I actually get there?
Right, like, okay, I get the concept, but how do I achieve this? What is this state of mind where doubts are vanquished, wisdom you can find? How does such steadfastness in thought reside? And what the marks by which it is described?
Exactly. And in the following verses, Krishna is going to provide this roadmap for cultivating this inner peace.
Wonderful. All right, verse 55. When one renounces all desires of the heart and finds contentment in the self apart from cravings and attachments, free and bold, then, steadfast in wisdom, their story is told.
Detachment from desires.
Okay.
This is a huge one.
Right.
It's not about suppressing our desires, but recognizing their fleeting nature.
Okay.
And finding that true contentment in the depths of our being.
Yeah.
When we're no longer driven by those external cravings, that's when we experience that sense of inner freedom and stability.
Who's undisturbed by sorrow's piercing dart and joy's embrace can't sway their steadfast heart. From fear and anger wholly they depart. That sage is liberated, wise from the start.
Whose senses all are guarded, firmly restrained. From objects of desire, their purpose chained. Like lotus leaf untouched by water's stain, such a one is liberated. Freedom they've attained. Yeah, I love that image of the lotus leaf untouched by water.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, it makes me think of that saying, be in the world, but not of it.
Who can withdraw the senses, swift and keen, as tortoise draws its limbs, a sheltered scene? That soul is firmly fixed in consciousness so bright, beyond the fleeting shadows of the night.
So here's this analogy for controlling the senses.
Okay.
Just like a tortoise withdraws its limbs into its shell for protection, we too can withdraw our senses from that external world to find that inner peace and clarity.
The image of the tortoise going into its shell, it's so vivid and relatable. And it makes me think that we can create that kind of sanctuary within ourselves.
Yeah.
When senses are withdrawn, desires subside, save for the longing for the highest to abide. But even this desire, with wisdom's guiding light, is extinguished fully in union with the right.
So even when we make progress in controlling the senses, there can still be this lingering desire for spiritual fulfillment.
Okay.
But as we deepen our understanding, connect with that divine within, even that desire dissolves.
Okay.
And it's replaced by this state of pure being, a union with the ultimate reality.
So it's like by letting go of even the desire for liberation, that we achieve true liberation.
It's a paradox, but a really profound point.
Right.
True freedom comes not from grasping,
Okay.
but from surrendering.
Though senses may assault with their alluring might, the steadfast soul remains unyielding in the fight. Like mighty winds that buffet a mountain's rooted form, the senses cannot shake the soul that weathers the storm. Whose senses are restrained, their thoughts in check, united with the Supreme with whom they seek to connect, such yogis find release from every bond of pain in that communion sweet, lasting peace they gain. When pondering objects of sense, attachment grows. From attachment desire, and from desire woes. Anger arises fierce when desires are denied, and delusion follows where reason cannot hide.
This is that slippery slope to suffering. From anger comes delusion, dark and deep, and clouded memory secrets fail to keep. When memory's lost, intelligence takes flight, and fallen is the soul from wisdom's height.
But one who moves among the objects of sense, with senses controlled and mind's defense, free from attraction and aversion's sway, attains tranquility and peace along the way.
So even though we're surrounded by
Yeah.
all these temptations, we can still find peace and tranquility.
Enjoying the world without being consumed by it.
Exactly, that middle way that
Right.
leads to lasting happiness.
All right, verse 65. In that tranquility, all sorrows cease to be. For one whose mind is calm attains serenity. With wisdom established, vision clear and bright, the self is seen in its eternal light.
It is a glimpse of the liberation that awaits us when we break free from those chains.
Without a tranquil mind, no wisdom can reside, no meditation deep where truth and peace abide. Without true peace, no happiness can be. And who finds not happiness, how can they be free?
That's the foundation, right?
Yeah.
Inner peace. Without it, there's no wisdom, no meditation, no happiness.
Right. So the journey to happiness has to begin within.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the Gita provides that roadmap for that inner journey.
Like a ship tossed and driven upon a stormy sea, whose senses unrestrained by winds of desire are free, the mind of such a person lacks all constancy, and wisdom's light is lost in that inconstancy.
True freedom comes not from indulging every whim,
Right.
but mastering our minds.
Verse 68, therefore, restrain your senses, Arjuna, my friend, and slay the demon foe on which all sorrows depend. Desire is hard to conquer, a foe both strong and sly, but by the self-controlled, it's vanquished utterly. What is as night to beings, steeped in earthly ways, is wakefulness for one whose inner light displays. And what to beings is the day's great claim, is night for the introspective sage's aim.
This is interesting, right? An inversion of values.
Yeah.
When we awaken to our true nature, what the world considers wakefulness
Yeah.
is actually a form of slumber for the spiritually awake. True fulfillment comes from self-awareness and that communion with the divine.
As rivers flow to ocean, vast and still, yet ocean's depths no overflow will fill. So one unmoved by desire's ceaseless tide can find true peace where others can't abide. Who casts aside all longings of the sense and lives desireless without pretense, relinquishing all claims of ownership's hold, devoid of ego's story to be told. That soul alone can find true, lasting peace.
Recognizing our true self isn't defined by our possessions, our roles,
Right.
our thoughts or emotions, but pure awareness.
Okay, last one for today, verse 72. This is the spiritual path, the godly way to live, attaining which no bewilderment can give its troubled sway. If one in this state finds release, even at death, they enter realms of peace. That's quite a way to end this section.
It is a call to embark on that spiritual journey.
Yeah.
A path of self-discovery, transformation, leads to lasting peace and liberation.
It's a journey, not a destination.
Exactly. It's a process that unfolds over time as we deepen our understanding.
Okay, but how do we actually put it into practice?
It starts with self-awareness,
Okay.
being mindful of our thoughts, our emotions, our actions.
Right, so paying attention to our inner world.
Exactly. Then we can start to make different choices.
Okay, but that sounds like a lot of work.
It is work, but incredibly rewarding.
How can we act in the world without wanting things to go a certain way?
It's about shifting our motivation
Okay,
from self-interest to selfless service.
so aligning our actions with our purpose.
Yes. Acting from a place of integrity.
This has been such a rich and rewarding exploration of Chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita. We've journeyed with Arjuna from, The depths of despair to the heights of spiritual liberation. And along the way, we've been offered these profound insights into the nature of the soul, the cycle of birth and death, and the path of selfless action.
We invite you to join us for our next episode.
Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. We'll be delving into the teachings of Krishna,
Analyzing the philosophical debates,
and exploring the relevance of the Gita in our modern life.
We'd love to hear your insights and engage in a meaningful dialogue with you.
Until next time, may you find peace and wisdom on your own life's journey.